I always see stuff, and that's one thing I hate about politics. And it's not, I like talking about it because it's interesting, but it's like you see all these things, and it's like, oh, here's a bill proposal, especially in the U.S., because I feel like we have one of the largest impacts as a country when it comes to our political climate. But that's probably not a great thing. That could just be me looking at it as an American. Most countries might not care, but at the same time, we do have an impact globally because of how large of a country we are and how many people we have. And we are one of the top powers. But anyways, with that, it's like I see these bills come up and it's like, oh yeah, we're going to introduce green energy. We're going to do this. We're going to do some infrastructure. That'll be cool. That's good. We'll provide jobs. We'll put in solar paneling. We'll put in some wind turbines, blah, blah, blah. And then it'll go in and then it just won't pass. And it's because probably some more on the conservative side are like, well, where are we going to get the money? Why do we got to spend this money? All this stuff, or climate change isn't real. Like, I've heard that growing up, like, as an argument. Like, I've had that argument with people. I've talked to people my own age that have been like, I don't give a shit about what I do because when it really gets bad, I'll be near death anyways. They can figure it out. And I'm like, well, at that point, if you just leave it, like if our generation in particular, my generation says, I don't want to worry about it, or even the generation above us says, I don't want to worry about it, it's by the time we get old where it won't really be something we can probably change and fix. Where it's like now is where we can actually make a difference. And for me, when I see stuff like that, which has a definite benefit to, I feel like in the long run, the U.S. economy, the overall global like system, less pollution, like everything, I feel like that it just has a net positive, and then it just gets shot down just because people don't believe in it, believe the science, or they don't think we should spend money on that, but they want to spend money on giving money to some third party military contractor to design a new rocket system for $2 billion or some shit. Like, I don't know. I'm just using a weird example. But it's just like, to me, it's just like that in itself is terrible. And it's like, if you can get stuff passed politically, that's going to have the most impact because they're the ones that can impact industrial systems and large companies and how they handle things. And governments and companies are the ones that have the impact. Amazon is going to have the largest impact probably out of most. And like Amazon, Google, FedEx, like those shipping companies, like stuff with that, and the government and everything they do are the two like areas that are going to have like the largest impact on those kind of choices. And it's like now people are just kind of waking up to it because they're like, oh, I just realized summers are starting to get a little hot. I don't know how much I like this. And it's like, you should have been thinking about this a while ago. Like, shit, people were preaching climate 20 years before I was born. And nothing's really happened. Like, nothing, like, things have gotten better, but not like they probably should have been. Like, we definitely use plastics too much. We, like, there's just a lot, and there's breakthroughs every year. And sadly, sometimes it's not stuff that's talked about, but like the superworm that can now digest plastics, which is weird and crazy, but if that's a way to get rid of plastics, that's awesome. Or like Mr. Beast raising money for cleaning the oceans, and I can't remember the guy's name, but he was on Joe Rogan a few years ago. But the guy that runs a company that basically designed a program and a nonprofit to get trash out of the Pacific Ocean and like do stuff like that, like, is amazing. I've seen the stuff they do. It's awesome. I mean, there's breakthroughs and stuff like that all the time, and it's sick. And like one thing that I feel like so talked about or not talked about enough is like nuclear energy in particular. Like, yeah, it's I get it. People have a fear of like, I don't know, a nuclear disaster, but when you look, I've looked at statistics, I've read certain things, but it's like when you look at the numbers of the amount of people that die from different forms of energy consumption or production, like hydroponic, not hydroponic, but hydro, like dams and constructing and building that, or solar or wind or coal, and you look at the amount of casualties, and it's like nuclear is like one person in 100 years or something. I might be wrong. Maybe it's 10. And then it's like, for the rest, it's like super high. I think it's like 150 die from solar. And the main reason, a year. And I think the main reason is from people falling off of roofs when installing solar panels, which, I mean, that's not necessarily like super catastrophic, but at the same time, people are dying from it. But it's just like, if you look at it that way, or the cost or the net waste after 80 years, like I've also seen another thing where it's like the amount of nuclear waste that powered millions of homes or something for 60 years, and how much that is compared to using a coal plant for the same amount of time doing the same, and how much waste that is. And it's like dramatically different in the amount of waste that's used. And like there's new stuff coming out where there's better ways to get rid of your nuclear waste and all this, and like, I don't know, it's just stuff that's not talked about, sadly. And I feel like more needs to be done. Hopefully stuff will finally start to go through, but it's definitely the biggest issue we have globally as like humans. Like, it's at this point, you can't deny we've had some sort of impact. Right now, solar and wind's the cheapest it's ever been. I think last time I looked, I think it's cheaper than fossil fuel energy. So like for coal, which is record breaking. That's the first time that's ever happened. So it's like maybe solar and wind's gonna start becoming more popular because it's cheaper to produce, but it's also not sustainable because it's not always sunny, it's not always windy. So like there's stuff you gotta do. Like, it's not an easy task or solution, but it's definitely stuff that needs to be talked about.